Good morning, and it's your favorite time of the week because it's Mondays with Bev and Paul. And hi, everybody, my name's Paul.
Good morning. This is Bev.
Hey, everybody, we have a wonderful show for you today. We're going to talk about Bio-Touch for grief. And first thing we want to do before we do that is our dream catcher. And this week we have our wonderful, happy-go-lucky. I love this little picture of her with her little tiara and her little face. And
Yeah.
Kai Cox, our instructor in the Chicago area of Illinois of the USA. And we're putting her in the center of the dream catcher, giving her all of our juice and our energy. She is the one that has the two bio babies that she's done BioTouch from conception to birth and fourth birthday of her little one already.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we are so happy to have Kai in the middle of the dream catcher. If you'd like to be in the middle of the dream catcher, send us a picture and your name and where you live on the planet. But what's wonderful about this is we're going to take the dream catcher and make it real. Boom, there she is.
Woo!
We have Kai Cox with us today who's going to talk about BioTouch for grief. Hi,
No, I'm
Kai.
so happy to have you with
Hello,
us.
thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yep. Us too, Kai. Yeah. So we're going to talk about biotouch and grief and really, I mean, you being here talking about this is really, really awesome because last year, was it last year? You went through a period and lost your mother. And so it happens. I've lost my mother. Paul's lost his mother. So we get it, right? But why don't you tell us, your journey through that? What happened? How, all of that with BioTouch. So go ahead.
Absolutely. So my mom had cancer for at least 3 years, but it might have been longer than that. She decided to keep it very close to her heart and not share with people. So then last year, December 1st, we were told she was on hospice. And then she made it, I believe it was 93 days on hospice care and made it to her 71st birthday, which is um, happens February 25th. So tomorrow would be her first heavenly birthday.
Oh,
And
wow.
then she passed away 2 days later. Um, so first, I want to say that my mom's the reason I know BioTouch.
Right.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I
That's
can still
right.
jump back to that memory of her coming home from the training and being like, "This is going to change your life." Once again, she was right. Um, and then through her um, journey with cancer, we always turned to BioTouch. I also was massaging her feet and using other elements that I know how to use, but BioTouch was always the easiest. And so it'd be, she had days where she didn't want to be touched because she was just in too much pain, but she'd be like, "But I can do the greeting, or I can do the headset, right? We could do those things." Um, so that was really nice during that process. And then anyone that has experienced grief, it's your new relationship with this term grief and what it shows up in your life. So it's been really helpful to have, I have days where I'm just angry because she's not here. And to have my daughter be like, "Oh, mom, let's do BioTouch."
Oh, wow. That's
Or
wonderful.
she'll tell me to breathe a lot.
Yeah.
Like right
But
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
told myself I didn't want to get too emotional, but it's just so profound to have this thing that we can all turn to. Um, like my father, who has never liked touch. He claims because he was a premature baby that he just didn't like touch, and
Hmm.
there's probably some truth to that. But he's come around to BioTouch with our journey with grief. This past year has been very eye-opening for all of us. Just the importance of touch and how can we make time or space for that. So that's why we love BioTouch, because you can either do it, when you're walking out the door, like, oh, I have a moment, right? Or you have a kid running around, you have a moment to be like, hey, can you take 8 seconds for me? Can you show up for me for 8 seconds?
So your daughter does BioTouch with her mama, huh?
She does. Yes, my 4-year-old does BioTouch, which is awesome. She doesn't always get the points right, but hey, you got that silver dollar, right?
You know, they
She's
know.
not always a light touch or whatever. But then also my 20-month-old asks for BioTouch almost daily.
Oh,
Um, it's become like a routine with my husband and her when he like gets her diaper on to go to bed. She points and she asks for BioTouch, and
wow.
she doesn't always say those words, right? She's 20 months, but it is
Right.
pretty amazing that, he's like, "Oh, you want BioTouch?" And she smiles and she gets so happy.
Oh,
And I just stand there like a proud mom, although he's
oh,
done all
wow.
that. Like
That
he's
is
the one that's
so,
built that relationship. And it is nice to have that as an example of, yes, you can do this daily because it doesn't take long. And, he's
works.
one
So
of the happiest babies there is.
so how did wh- so were you working with your mom as she was passing? Is that
Yeah.
and then so you're still in the grief process then, even a year later?
I would say so. I mean, I think it's a relationship with grief. You're always going to be somewhat grieving. Um, so yes, I'm definitely still in it. I have better awarenesses where I don't get as grief stricken. Um, and you know, I have connection with her still. So it's just a new relationship with her. Um, but yes, I don't know if you ever stop grieving, you guys would know.
Mm.
Right.
So when you do grieve, uh,
Hmm.
do you ask the kids to touch you?
Yes. Yeah. If I'm like, so my grief shows up more in like frustration. That's I was talking with a therapist. It's like thinking about a tornado. You never really know where you're going to touch down, and I touch down a lot in frustration. And when I'm feeling that frustration where I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to force everything." I like to take a step back and be like, Maisie, can you do BioTouch for me? Or, I'll ask my husband to, or I just need this right now. And it's one of the few things that I say, like, I need to take that breath and just have that moment of, okay, things can be still and I don't have to react, which never have to react, but we are reactive, right? Especially when we're going through a process where
Yeah.
you
Right.
never really know where you're going to show up.
I think what's really important about that, Kai, is that you are asking them to take a moment to help you. I mean, so much of our time is spent just like, well, I don't want to bother anybody.
Mhm.
But I don't know, there's something about BioTouch that you feel safe enough to ask for yourself. Can you give me this gift right now in this moment? And asking a child, a 4-year-old, it's just the most precious thing I've ever heard. I mean, this is what we really talk about a lot. You guys are like the poster family for BioTouch. This is exactly what we talk about, getting it into the family unit. Look what happens. You just said you have the two of the most happiest children. Well, they get a touch of love from you all the time, from their parents all the time.
So let me ask you this too about your father. Okay, so this is a grieving process as he's constantly going into the hospital for you. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
It's difficult for you too.
Definitely. He's, grieving, and then he also has his own medical issues. So, it's um there's that on top of everything that's going on, because you don't really know what the phone call is going to be, right? I get anxious now when I get phone call.
Yeah.
So it does it help when you get that chance to touch him, to do BioTouch with him? Does that help your grief?
Yes. That is one of the so when we're in the hospital, right, you're just sitting there because you're sitting in a hospital doing nothing, but it gives me something that I can do. I don't know all the doctor jargon or what's going on or what their plan is or what new medication is going to happen, but I can simply touch. And so I can do my part.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And then let me ask you this too. Are there other people sometimes in the room when you do BioTouch?
Um,
Has that ever happened yet? Because I was
Not
wondering
yet.
how they would react. Because I remember when I was working with a woman who was dying, and I walked in, and the people were grieving. They were crying, and da da da. And the minute I would touch, her name was Bibi. The minute I would do BioTouch with her, the whole room calmed down. So I was just wondering
Uh,
if that had ever happened yet for you.
Not yet.
Interesting.
That does
Right.
sound pretty, pretty cool. Um, yeah, because for the most part, when I'm there, like we're kind of just alone and have our time together.
Yeah,
And
right.
But
is
it does happen when we're at his house and like there's lots of things going on. I'll be like, let's do BioTouch. And the whole house just kind of seems to calm down.
Yeah,
do you feel
interesting.
it's bringing you closer with him?
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, well, first, just for him to allow that experience.
Right.
Um,
Mm.
and I'll be like, oh, we're just doing the grading some days, or some days we'll do more points. And he's like, oh, what's that? Right. And so we get to have that conversation.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so doing BioTouch, like having that sense of touch, I was like, how about we try massaging your feet? And yes, I'm a massage therapist, but you don't need to be a massage therapist to massage your loved one's feet. Like you can just step into that and you can do it. And more at first it was like 2 minutes and now we can get up to like 15 or 20 minutes, and it's just
Oh,
time that we sit there talking or just sometimes just being together in silence. That's even more of a connection because there isn't all these other things going on.
Hmm. Wow.
yeah.
So you also said that when your mother introduced you to BioTouch, and you said it changed your life. What does that mean?
um that's a great question. BioTouch brought so much self-awareness because it's one of the principal pillars of it, right? Because when I started off as a massage therapist, I had this like ego complex, right? You have to come to me to be healed. And then through learning that we innately heal, I mean, it completely shaped my business. It shaped the way I go about working with anyone and the way I look at what I'm doing for myself to feel and see myself as whole and healed and perfect.
Hmm.
So that's like the general answer, but it also helped me step into a role of leadership and teaching because teaching BioTouch is one of the most it every single time I step into a weekend of teaching BioTouch, I know I'm going to feel amazing afterwards. And how often you get to go to work and be like, I'm going to feel so good after this. It's going to be amazing. Like, and the connections it's brought. I mean, getting to have Paul and Bev in my life through BioTouch, there are just endless ways that it has impacted my life. And, she was always my guiding light and she still is. And this was one of the first things that was like the snowball effect of everything else coming
Hmm.
Yeah.
aligned.
So Bev, let's take a moment too, just to tell us, because you had your mother pass, and you were doing BioTouch with her in those final days, weren't you?
Yeah, before and during. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Kai. It just the quality of the relationship um changed. It brought us into, I don't know, I want to say almost another level of interacting. And it helped me. That's the one thing, Kai was mentioning. It helped me as well as my mother. So it brought us into this relationship. And I was very honored, right, Kai? You were very honored to be on that journey with your mom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and BioTouch, I don't know what it is, but it just brings a softness, an in spite of everything, it's going to be okay. It will be okay, Kai. So yeah, it was a probably a different experience maybe if I hadn't have had the BioTouch, because I would have been what? Standing off looking on. But BioTouch allowed me to participate in that with her and to still have that closeness and, both feeling safe and trusting and love.
Hmm.
I
Right.
mean, yeah, it was wonderful. You too, Paul.
Well, it
You?
reminds me specifically of my father. So, from a man to a man, to be able to touch my father, right? Because, we don't tend to do that as a man to man thing. It's like, oh, everything's okay, right? But the intimacy in those final days of just even doing the greeting, but then I noticed from there also doing his feet. So it opened up, the BioTouch opened up for me and my father to touch one another in those final days. Uh, and to know everything was going to be okay. It reminds me of that couple, that young couple where the young man in his 20s ended up dying. He had BioTouch and a lot of other healing techniques. But in the end, the wife said to us, BioTouch was the one technique that we did that brought us hope. And listening to your story, Kai, especially, and Bev and myself, there's hope. Not hope that we're going to live eternally on this planet, but hope that I get from just seeing your eyes tear up again. Everything's going to be okay. Everything
Yeah,
is okay, not going to be okay.
yeah, it is okay. Yeah.
So we really appreciate you being so honest and open with us here today, and all of us at home that are watching this. What would be some of your final words for everyone that's watching this?
Um, Start today. If you haven't learned BioTouch, just learn the greeting and start.
Yep, it's good.
And thank you for your tears.
Yes, sweetie. Yeah.
It is funny that, I was like, oh, this is going to be such a perfect time. But of course, it's such a raw week. We're
Right.
approaching her first
Yeah.
birthday, heavenly birthday, and her first death anniversary. And we're supposed to be in Hawaii honoring her. But I'm so happy I could be here today with you guys.
Oh,
This is a perfect honoring. I am
it is.
so grateful that we did this for you and your mother and your family and your children who just had a birthday too. I mean,
Yeah.
interesting. A birth of the new one and a leaving of the elders. And you in the middle. It's
Yeah.
just like, whoa, this is powerful.
Yeah. It's very Maisie and my mom share the same birthday. So,
Oh,
Oh,
really?
wow.
yeah, the exact same day.
Oh, God.
That's how you know I was the favorite because I'm first grandbaby on her birthday. What else could you want?
I mean, come on.
Oh.
Just kidding. There are no favorites.
I know.
Well, we appreciate you. We're so glad you're part of this organization. Also,
Um,
Bev's also on the board, helps guide the foundation.
yep.
Please take her advice. Learn BioTouch at justtouch.com. And if you want to dialogue with Kai, just office at justtouch.com. We'll pass on the email to her if you want to know about how you're dealing with grief or more of her personal experience with that. I'm sure she'd be happy to dialogue with you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Kai. Thank you,
Thank you,
Bev. This was
Kai.
just an awesome little gathering today. And
Was.
we'll see all of you next week for sure. Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye.
If pain has got you down and you live in town, take a trip down to Pima Street. The people down there are people who care. They will get you back on your feet. Put love into action. Put love into action. If you ever want to have any real satisfaction, choose love while you still can. Don't even try to understand. A healing grace in your own hands. Put love into action.